Okay, hello and welcome everybody. Thank you so much for everyone for joining us as always in today's webinar. So my name's Dan and I take care of marketing activities here at BenQ Australia based in our Sydney office. I've also got with me today Jai, who is our field application engineer and head trainer to help me out with a demo of some product today. So today's webinar will be a quick guide to hybrid working. So thank you all again for taking the time to be here and let's get kicked off. Some housekeeping rules just to start off with. So as always, this webinar will be recorded. So check back on the BenQ Australia YouTube channel for the upload. Also, if you were registered today, you'll get a notification afterwards in the next few days with the recording link. At any time throughout the webinar, please throw your questions in the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen at any time, and we'll get back to you at the end. If you'd like to get in touch with us after the webinar, you can email us at bqau sales@benq.com. A little bit about the agenda today. So we'll have a short insight into some recent research conducted by PwC, a quick introduction to hybrid working and how it can be used in the workplace, an overview of BenQ's latest in video conference camera range, and we'll have a Q&A at the end. So I think we can all agree that our hybrid working future is upon us. We often talk about what's next in the future of the workplace or what's around the bend. It's quite evident that organizations haven't so much as had to embrace the new hybrid technology, but essentially they've been forced to implement it in order to keep up with the sudden changes in 2020. So let's first take a look into some research conducted by PwC back in June of 2020 called Productivity in 2020 and Beyond. So 502 organizations from 15 countries participated, including Australia. 60% of those responded were C-suite level executives. All the organizations are in the financial sector. PwC, if you're not familiar, are a multinational organizations professional services network, and the Australian branch is part of a network of firms in 158 countries with over 250,000 people. They have a core value of working together to build trust in society and solve important problems. So in this report, PwC established 5 pillars of productivity. So 1, better understanding the workforce, rethink change functions, embracing the platform economy, bringing an agile mindset to the mainstream, mastering digital labor, along with relevant soft skills. So now let's go over some stats and findings that I found particularly notable, and we'll offer some possible ways forward with a workspace technology standpoint. So how are organizations tracking employee productivity? So 44% of respondents said they track performance daily and weekly. Even though studies show that remote office workers are as productive or more productive than office workers, dealing with a dispersed workforce for managers is difficult when evaluating employees, especially their performance and developing teams. This is where being able to connect with your team easily over distance is crucial, complementing other methods of productivity tracking. So what are the obstacles when tracking productivity effectively? The majority of respondents outlined that budget and time constraint was a major roadblock in implementing productivity tracking, with a common perception that it costs too much and takes too much time for management and employees. Employers also have shown resistance to work analytics for various reasons, including privacy concerns. Having a well-connected and efficient hybrid workplace can alleviate some of the need for invasive performance tracking. Effective collaboration and communication here is key. So how much are organizations spending on change? So from a technological or a technology acquisition and implementation standpoint, change can be expensive. The average change budget at a financial services institution represents about 14% of annual operating costs, according to PwC's most recent findings. The changes needed and downturn in business due to COVID-19 likely exceeded this budget for most organizations, implementing more remote working environments and complying with government policy. This is where complete solutions with value proposition and simple integration ability become essential. Unsurprisingly, the top organizational change priority was client and customer satisfaction, and second being regulatory compliance. So are organizations changing their employee structure? The gig-based economy is increasing. Currently 5% of organizational workforce, with a predicted increase of 52% in the next 3 to 5 years for surveyed companies. With more of the workforce operating remotely, the need for efficient communication and collaboration is essential. PwC believes this group of employees will likely perform 15 to 20% of the work of a typical institution within 5 years, driven by continuous cost pressure and the need to access digitally skilled talent. So no matter what situations we face, whether it be natural disaster like fires and flooding, or continued lockdowns due to pandemics and the like, business growth and productivity must continue. So let's go into a few ways we can do that. What do we need for successful hybrid working? Before we head into the details, we can answer one obvious question. What is hybrid working? Quite simply, home or remote-based colleagues and on-site team members. But when it comes to hybrid working, we've got a myriad of different meeting and collaboration use cases like work from home, broadcast, external presentation, internal collaboration, and training. And there's probably a lot more as well. For a successful hybrid working environment, we're going to need a few things. And we'll go through an example of each. So no matter the situation you're in at your organization, in the office or at home, or a combination of both, remote and in-person collaboration is key. So our first port of call is work hardware. As far as we're concerned, the key day-to-day tasks like collaboration, whiteboarding, video conferencing, and more are all mediated through an interactive display. This is where DuoBoard, BenQ's corporate interactive flat panel, excels in the meeting room. For easy plug-and-play wireless presentation with no software, InstaShow WDC20 is the perfect solution for BYOD sharing. Not to mention the added peace of mind of industry standard security features like 128-bit AES encryption and ISO 27001 certification. Then we have the smart projector for extending your workspace to the big screen and taking advantage of the convenience of PC-less and wireless Android environment. Next up, we have cloud whiteboarding. So intuitive and easy to use is the key here for successful collaboration. EasyWrite Cloud Whiteboard is a powerful solution to keep your teams together. Just a note here, the top right-hand corner is actually a Duo board running in Duo OS mode, meaning that The Windows OPS is running VC software, and there's an EasyWrite Cloud Whiteboard session open at the same time. So currently only EasyWrite Live offers a video conferencing option. So allowing you to, work software. So allowing you to broadcast important messages across BenQ IFP, Smart Projector, or signage instantly or scheduled for a later date. It's Exxon broadcast software. Then we've got InstaShare, which is a powerful and integrated wireless sharing solution that can be used on interactive flat panel and share from a range of devices, including PC and mobile. Security is paramount in the business world, with data breaches and network infiltration being commonplace in 2021. To help mitigate this, both DuoBoard and Smart Projector are preloaded with the McAfee Android security software on their native operating systems. And as I mentioned before, InstaShare offers industry-leading security features, including no executable software, industry-standard network encryption, and international certification standards like ISO 27001. So for file handling is important for IT managers and users alike. DMS, or device management solution, allows for back-end management of individual or fleets of BenQ devices, including the ability to control and push out software updates remotely. AMS, or account management system, gives users their own digital workspace with the ability to link personal cloud storage and utilize a one-tap login via NFC card. If we could give an award for most influential device of 2020/2021, it would most certainly go to the humble VC camera. But not all cameras are created equal, and the right camera needs to be adapted to the particular size of the room to get the most out of your conferencing experience. So at BenQ, we have the DVY21, DVY22, and DVY23. So having said that, let's talk video conferencing cameras. Now I'll hand it over to Jai, our field application engineer and head trainer here at BenQ Australia, to go through a bit more in depth into our newest range of video conferencing cameras to fit any space. There you go, Jai.
Thanks, Dan. So we're just going to run through each of these cameras that Dan just mentioned there. So we'll start with the DVY21. And as you can see here, we have it's a very standard camera that we're used to using in personalized environments. So whether that's the home office or in your cubicle or your office at your business there as well. And so there's a couple of key features that we just want to mention here during the webinar today. And so we'll have a look at the specs that we typically look at for cameras that we use for our Zoom meetings or any other video conferencing solution you may utilize here. And so some of the key specs or features with the DVY21 is that it's a full HD camera and operates at 30 frames per second there with an 88-degree field of view. We mentioned that it's highly compatible, so this will work with BenQ interactive screens or our digital signage, and also with your own personal device. So whether that's a Windows computer, Mac device, or Linux system as well. This camera is powered by USB, so it's a one cable solution that you just simply plug and play. And your video conferencing solution will be able to detect that camera and make that image viewable. It also comes bundled with omnidirectional mics, which are built in with noise suppression too. So we get really crisp audio just from the microphones built into that camera itself. You can obviously utilize a different microphone there if you want to use a mic that's built into your computer, or if you have an additional video conferencing mic there. In conjunction with that camera. And the pickup distance of that microphone is around 5 meters. So you do have to be relatively close to that mic for it to be functional there. And then we can also make adjustments here for the lighting. So if we need to improve the exposure there, we're able to do that via the menu system. And it's obviously really light and portable there as well. We might just jump over here. Just give me a second. We'll have a look at our next camera, which is the DVY22. So this is our 4K camera, as opposed to the full HD camera of the DVY21 previously. And this is what we call our digital Zoom conference camera. And we'll have a look at some of the specs here. And this is obviously made for designed for medium-sized meeting rooms, as you can see in the image here as well. So a larger meeting space there. Like I mentioned, it is 4K HDR with an 8.3 megapixel camera there, and it operates 4K at 30 frames per second. And this has a wider field of view. So with the DVY21, it was 88 degrees. This one's a 126 wide field of view. So this is great if you have a much larger space there and you need that wider field of view. It also comes with a built-in digital zoom, a 4x digital zoom. So we're able to focus on the subject matter that's important or that we want to focus on there. And it comes with its own remote control. So we're able to adjust that zoom on the fly as well if we need to adjust that during our meeting or our conference. And it also has auto framing there. So it's able to be able to detect who is speaking at the time and zoom in on that person, or if we have movement as well within that camera frame. With the mics here, it has omnidirectional mics with noise suppression similar to our DVY21, but the range is slightly larger here. So we have those mics are functional up to 8 meters from the camera itself. So they're sort of like the key features that we look at with the DVY22. Obviously, the increase in resolution there and the field of view with built-in zoom are sort of the 3 key features there with the DVY22. And then we'll move on to the last one, which is the DVY23, and this is our PTZ conference camera. So you'll notice here the difference is that we've gone back to full HD with this camera, but we'll have a look at some of the typical specs here. So PTZ, for those who don't know, PTZ is an acronym for pan, tilt, and zoom. So we're able to really customize the position of this camera on the fly, and it has a built-in remote control to do that as well. We also have a 20 times zoom as opposed to the 4 times zoom on the DVY22. So we're really able to zoom in and focus on the content that we need to during our video conference. It also has an autofocus ability too. So both manual and autofocus are available via the remote control. And this has a 63-degree field of view there too. It has real time or live streaming capability as well. So a lot of people want to stream in real time, and you can do this directly from the camera without additional software, and you're just able to do that within the menu. And so you can stream the platforms like YouTube and Facebook if that's something that your company desires there too. I mentioned before that it's a 1080p camera, so full HD definition at 30 frames. And once again, it's highly compatible to working on a variety of platforms that you use within your company. We also have a compare feature. So everything that we've looked at today is on our website. So it's viewable for you guys just to jump on it and have a browse there. But we also have a compare feature here where we're actually able to compare all 3 cameras simultaneously. And we can run through the difference in specs there according to resolution, field of view, zoom, and all those other feature sets that we've spoken about previously too. So check that out. And then finally, there's just a quick article on our website too, which talks about sort of best practices as far as picking the right camera for your meeting space, and also gives you an overview and a comparison there of those 3 cameras we just ran through there, Dan.
It's great, Joe. Thank you very much. We have skipped over that quite quickly, obviously, because there is a lot of features involved in these cameras, and just I'll just throw the camera on actually while we're talking. So we're actually using the DVY22 set up here in our office. I'll just zoom in a little bit and pan it. Jai doesn't want to be in the frame for some reason.
I'm just having a drink.
He's having a drink. He's parched, which is okay. So yeah, so there's a decision to be made there, Jai, when it comes to picking the right camera for the space.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely. And there's 3 varieties there. Like I mentioned, they're made to fit different size meeting spaces. So it just depends on the use case and the amount of room that you have to work with, obviously, there as well.
That's right. Yep. And look, while we're waiting for questions in the Q&A, if you do want to get a hold of us so for us to help you out with finding the exact right camera for you, we're more than happy to do that. So if you want to reach out to your reseller or your distributor, or whether it be contacting us directly at BenQ sales at benq.com, we'd be happy to help. We're all here ready for you to get in contact with. While we're waiting, Jai, I mentioned to you earlier that we were going to speak on the webinar today just about something that we talk often with the customers about, how compatibility works with different video conferencing platforms. And obviously we've gone through the resolution of native resolution of each camera, but we may not see that exact resolution on every software that we plug it into, essentially.
Yeah, so I guess that's a good point to raise. So as consumers, we're driven by resolution on our personal devices. So TV screens, 4K is all the rage. We're even hearing about 8K now. And we see that resolution when we're watching shows or films. And so when we hear about 4K cameras, we sort of expect that same result. And the reality is that it's just doesn't happen the majority of the time. And there's a whole bunch of factors involved with that. A lot of it has to do with software limitations. So it's dependent on the video conferencing software solution that we're using. So obviously, if we're talking about corporate, a lot of the time we're using Teams or Zoom, and then in education we're talking about Zoom as well. And there's limitations of the bandwidth and what resolution they actually output at as well. And so you need to take that into account. So even though your camera may be a 4K camera, if the software only allows you to output at 1080p, then all the image is going to be is a 1080p image. And that's just at the software level. Then we have to talk about sort of network restrictions and how much bandwidth we're able to give our devices to video conference or to live stream at the same time. So just be wary of that. Obviously, having a higher resolution camera is always going to be better and give you more options in the long run. But we need to be aware of those kind of limitations at a software and a networking level as well.
Exactly. It's definitely, there is opportunities to do 4K streaming for video conferencing, but it's expensive. It's complicated. It can be complicated. So it really depends on the application, what sort of software you want to run. If you want to do custom software and things like that, the opportunity is there to go on a higher resolution.
Yeah, exactly. And they have all these details. So whatever video conferencing platform you're using, you can find what those streaming details or those resolution details just on the websites from those companies. I guess the great thing about having a 4K camera is that if you wanted to just do recording, if you wanted to record something, whether it's a demo or a meeting in general, at least then that recording will be at 4K if that's what you want to record at. So you have that option there. So it's easy to get caught up in the VC or the live streaming side of things and the limitations there. But at the end of the day, you'll have a 4K camera that will be able to at least record in that resolution as well.
Exactly. So it is a multifunctional camera, really, not just for video conferencing, but can be used for any other reasons. Seeing as though we've got such a remote workforce, we're always on LinkedIn, we're always watching videos somewhere, whether it be YouTube, like we're talking about the DVY23 having those live streaming capabilities. Yep. So there's lots of reasons why you would use a conference camera for a different purpose.
Yeah,
we're still very capable in doing that.
Yeah, it's definitely not a one-trick pony. So you've got options there, and people are trying to create content in the corporate landscape all the time now, and it's really handy if you have a camera there that you're able just to jump on, start recording in high resolution, and output that content to your desired viewership or your customer base.
Definitely. So it looks like we haven't got any questions in the Q&A at this point. Seems like we've gone through everything quite thoroughly.
Yeah, we've done a really good job. We've done a really bad job.
Really bad job. But look, let's assume we did a good job.
Yep.
And we can sign off a couple of minutes early. I just want to say thanks very much to everybody for joining. I know that webinar overkill is a real thing these days, and time is precious. Especially because things are so busy at the moment. So thank you very much for joining us. And as I said at the start, this will be recorded. So please feel free to go over to the BenQ Australia YouTube channel and you can rewatch or share it with your colleagues. And again, get in contact with us directly through email or through your resellers. I've actually dropped some links into the chat section. So if you'd like to go into any of the pages that we've gone through or the PwC study, you can do that as well.
But we've just got a question there as well.
Oh, we do?
Craig. Yeah,
oh,
so
okay.
It's
a late question. You got us in just in time. Do you feel when guys that the 4K issue is in technology catch-up mode across the supply sector?
Cameras in 4K, but not the software. Yeah, so that's a good question, okay. Craig. So it's definitely not a hardware limitation, obviously, because we are producing these devices that can output that resolution. So a lot of it has to do with I mentioned the software being limited in its output. There's no reason why those companies can't output in a higher resolution, but it's about what's going to work best, or even as far as reputation goes. You can imagine if these companies put out their software to operate at 4K, and some of them do via like a paid subscription for those services. But you can imagine if 4K was standard, but people's infrastructure doesn't support that, so their networking infrastructure or their ISP doesn't support that, then it's a bad reflection on those software companies as well. So a lot of it has to do with sort of the PR side of things, I believe. And until our networking infrastructure, particularly in Australia, catches up, it's going to be that way for quite a while. And so until we can maintain a consistent 4K quality, it's going to be like that as far as the software limitation goes, because those companies are sort of trying to protect their own reputation there, and they're hindered by that networking infrastructure as well.
Yeah, it seems like a pretty common thing, networking hindrance, especially with so much more traffic going through the networks now. Everybody's logging in remotely. They're doing a lot more in the office. They've got more devices.
Yeah.
It seems like it's a big strain on the...
I mean, you saw when the pandemic first hit, where services like Zoom, their services were shutting down because they couldn't handle the influx of people needing to video conference all simultaneously. And even streaming services like Netflix were sending out information about downgrading the resolutions that they could output, because there's just such a strain on that infrastructure. And that obviously carries right over across all industries with that. So it is definitely an infrastructure thing, and just being able to handle the bandwidth involved with streaming or video conferencing.
And I'm feeling very far out of my depth with that conversation. I have no idea how to fix it or how to mitigate some of these issues that it's creating. But Craig, if you have any ideas on that, please let us know. He's got another question. Can you speak more about the core cell differences between RP boards and Duo CP?
Sanjay, do you want to talk about this? Do you want to jump in?
We've actually got Sanjay in the background.
He's waving it off.
You can't see him, but he's here. Let me.
Okay.
Okay.
I've got one question for you, Joy, and that's regarding the video conference cameras.
Sure.
You mentioned about DVY23.
Yes.
And it's a camera for a large venue. Can you tell us if that can be used as a network camera and can be chosen as a camera for video conferencing on Zoom and Skype?
So, okay, you've thrown me in here, Sanjay. So the answer to that is that yes, it can be. It has a LAN port, so you can connect it via the LAN cable. It does require additional software though, so it's not something that is available with the built-in feature or the built-in menu there. So it would require an additional software download to implement that. But basically what that allows us to do is that if you have a generic meeting space that a lot of people use within your company, they'd be able to log into that camera from their own laptop without a physical connection to that camera, and utilize that for their meeting space as well. So yes, Sanjay, it is possible. It's a little bit, I wouldn't say it's complex, but there's a couple more steps involved to get that sorted in that respect.
Yeah. There you go. The expert, as always, Mr. Jai Chillingworth. All right. Well, I felt a little bit silly by doing the outro a little bit too early there. We went a little bit longer, a few minutes over time. So
I don't know if Craig heard. Craig, Sanjay said he would contact you after the webinar with some more info there about those.
Oh, okay. Sorry, he obviously didn't hear. He's just asking other questions. Craig will catch up with you directly. Yeah. All right, I'll do it all again, maybe in a bit of quicker format. But thanks so much, everybody, for joining again. Get in contact with us if you need any further information. But until the next one, thank you very much again, and we'll see you then.
Thanks, guys.